everyone, welcome back to First Lady Vlogmas. It's Taylor Perkins. For those of you who do not know, this is your first video. I am the wife to Pastor Ryan Perkins, Love of Jesus Ministry here in Mandeville, Louisiana. Our ministry has been going on for just at 10 years. Tonight's topic is about the struggles of women in ministry. And so what I had the opportunity to do was I sent out a question to various women in ministry. Some are wives of ministers, some are wives of pastors, some are pastors themselves, some are co-pastors with their husbands. And I just wanted to ask about the struggle that they particularly had in ministry. When I sent out the question, I had an assumption that I would receive a lot of the same type of responses, and I was completely blown away because I don't think that I received any one that was quite the same. Some were similar, but none were really quite the same. And so that was really interesting. I think for me, it just raised my awareness that we really do need each other, because what is a question for me may not be a question for you. The question was, in one word, describe your greatest struggle as a wife in ministry. And if you're willing to be transparent, a struggle that you feel you cannot tell others, or others could not know about. And so these are anonymous. I'm not going to be letting you know who said these, but I can read off. So some of the answers are balancing God, husband, family in priority, in that order, balancing the daily duties of all of those without feeling overwhelmed, so to speak. Another said women are supposed to be perfect. First ladies and women are supposed to be perfect without human traits. That's people's expectation. Another said waiting on the Lord to complete a ministry in me while I support a ministry within my husband. Another, I laughed at this one because she was like adamant about this. She said long suffering, constantly forgiving people, especially when you know that people don't particularly care for you, but having to constantly forgive and give second chances, more than second chances. Another, this particular woman is not only married to a pastor, but she's a co-pastor as well. Being yourself, and this was such a powerful, I'm probably going to read this response to you, such a powerful response, but being yourself, being who everyone wants you to be as a pastor's wife, wore me out, and I finally had to be okay being free to be myself. Another wrote family, breaking my family ties and learning that spiritual ties outweigh blood family sometimes. That was very difficult, very difficult. And so those are just a few of the responses, and I'm going to just kind of share my thoughts on each one, and you as well, as you're listening, I'm sure if you're a woman in ministry that these, even if you're not a woman in ministry, some of these I think might relate to you, because the life can be really difficult. That being said, I wanted to share mine with you all, and kind of give you some insight or background on some of the things that I struggle with as a first lady, because the lives that we live tend to be very selfless. I always used to say, I'd have this discussion with my husband, and God really just started convicting me about it, was comparing the life that I have to the life that I wanted. And so when I think of a typical marriage, typical traditional marriage, I think family is home by 4 or 5 o'clock, husband is home by 6 o'clock, dinner is cooked and on the table at 6:30. You might have 1 or 2 pets, 1 or 2 cars, a nice sized home. Doesn't have to be a mansion, doesn't have to be anything small either. This is just the life that we live. 2.3 children, whatever the average American family size is. And this is the life that I was looking for. And when you are in ministry, almost none of that is particularly true. Not because those things won't be afforded you. You might have some of those things in your life, but God is always calling you to give. And so, yeah, there might be times where you think, oh, we're able to go like on a nice family outing, and then sometimes things come up, and that just is not the case. It's a 24/7 on-call job. And I also had to learn that it was not my husband's job only. It was my job. It was my job to care about people and to love people enough to be sacrificial. Necessarily not the life that I have. And so I have had to learn now to live the life that I have, which meant that I had to erase the life that I wanted. I had to get rid of the expectations, because what ended up happening was I would hold on to these expectations and then be so disappointed when they did not come to pass. But in my mind, I think all along I knew that they probably wouldn't happen the way that I wanted them to happen. But for me, it was just, I still was continuing in my old thinking, like, well, why isn't this happening? Why doesn't this work? And the answer was quite clear. This is just a totally different life. And the crazy thing is, there was really nothing wrong with the life that God gave me. I mean, like, there was nothing wrong with it. I have a beautiful family. I have beautiful children. I have older children, and I have younger children. I have people around me who care and who are helpful. And I mean, you know, and it's a good thing. I mean, it's a healthy life. But I just could not seem to let go of what my life would look like in my mind. Because once I just assumed that my husband would be hurt by my statement of, this life that we have is not really the life that I want. And so I kept that in for a very long time. Not wanting to be hurtful, not wanting to seem ungrateful. But I knew in my heart that's what I was thinking. Like, this is just not what I want. That's how I would feel. And then there was the guilt of feeling the way that I felt. And so it was just a lot compiled on top of one another. As we become more honest about the things that bother us, then we're really able to move on and get to the next place in our lives. As I look through this list, I can clearly see in each one, in each one of these answers, I can so clearly feel where they're coming from. It is difficult to balance God, husband, and family and continue to be sane. It is overwhelming sometimes, because you can quickly feel like you're not doing anything right when you're giving all to do all three right. Can totally understand that people expect women, first ladies, wives, to be perfect. Without fault. They're always going to answer correctly. They're always going to give the right response. They're always going to have the right attitude. Doesn't matter how you treat them. It doesn't matter what happens to them. They're just expected to know the exact right thing to say. And we are human too. We feel too. We have issues too. And so that expectation sometimes is just so heavy and boxy. I understand waiting on a ministry. I understand supporting your husband and knowing that that's a thing that you need to do and a priority in your life. But then you're kind of like, well, Lord, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, I want my own identity, so to speak. I want to be able to move and have something that fits my mold. And I know that you've created me to do this something. What is this something? Lord Jesus, long suffering. Because when people don't care for you, they just seem to find ways to aggravate you. And I'm just called to forgive all the time. I just have to forgive. And it's, you know, it's long suffering. It is long suffering. Family, breaking family ties. Oh my gosh, it's the hardest thing to do is to live a life that your family is not pleased with, to live a life that your family doesn't agree with, doesn't understand, because you know that God has called you to something. You know that you're supposed to please him. You know that this is an important priority in your life. It's not really a priority, it's an assignment. Like, this is what you're supposed to do, who you're supposed to be. And for people who've always been there to all of a sudden not be there, not understand, to be treated differently, to be treated like you've done something wrong, is such a hard It's such a damaging feeling. But I think it's just the sorrow of knowing that you're trying to do something that's right and being accused of something that's wrong by the people that are supposed to know you the most, love you the most. But I do want to definitely shout out. She did say that I could use her name, Pastor Sharon Chance, New Life Ministries. And I just want to shout her out for her awesome response about being free. And she said, when I first became a pastor's wife, I tried to do everything that I could to be the best pastor's wife, the pastor's wife that everybody wanted me to be. Hair was too long, hair was too short. I was too skinny, I was too big. I was too tall, I was too short. Wore makeup, didn't wear enough. And she said, until finally I just said, enough. Enough is enough. My purpose is to please God and support my husband. And people are just going to have to fall in line with that, because I'm going to make the decision to be free. To just walk in the freedom of God wanting you just the way you are. If you are eclectic, or if you are if you are musically inclined, if you are clumsy, if you are you like to tell jokes, you like stand-up comedy, whoever you are, God, he's calling you just as you are. Now, when you get to him, he shaves some things off, but he also adds some things in. And that's okay, because he's doing the changing. But people, my Lord, people will try to make you something totally different than who you are. That was just I just want to say thank you, Pastor Chance, if you're watching. But that was just like an awesome way of bringing out that point of being free. And then my last point was a sister of mine who she's a pastor now, shared with me something I thought that was so simple but so powerful. And she said, we read the Proverbs 31 woman as if we are to break down these scriptures and do exactly what they did. But at the end of the day, like, the most important line in the entire passage is Proverbs 31 verse 30. Charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, but the woman who fears the Lord. It's almost like the Bible is saying, if a woman accomplished all these things, if she did verses 10 through 29, if she did everything right, and this was her daily life, she still wouldn't be virtuous. But sometimes we neglect that God our Father is our foundation. And I think sometimes we also think that this woman actually exists void of issues, void of shortcomings, chasing the fairy tale or chasing the dream, that the Proverbs 31 woman can exist in a full embodiment, rather than showing us the picture of the things that she produces, because she has a heart that fears and reveres the Lord. And I think that's the part that we skip. It's the heart that would fear God, that would allow her to be this woman. To end our segment tonight with a little nugget that I received from a woman who has gone on to glory. When I was in high school, we had a paper, and we had to interview someone elderly that we admired. She was maybe 85 when I did this interview. She lived in a little senior living home. My mother and I went over. She baked me the best apple pie of life. And I don't even know where this comment came from, but it blessed me years down the road. And she said, I'm a woman and I'm called to do what God has called me to do. I don't want to serve as a man. I don't want to do the things that men do. But I know that my life was greatly fulfilled because I was the best woman that I could be. And I just thought it was so interesting that she appreciated so much the opportunity, because I felt like that's how she saw it. I felt that she saw it as an opportunity to do a great work because she was a woman, that she got a chance to do something that she couldn't have done as a man because God gave her the opportunity to be a woman, and she cherished the opportunity that she had to be a woman. And that just still means a lot to me to this day. Thank you for joining in tonight. If you guys have questions, if you guys want to know anything, please leave comments below. Email me questions, lovinglipstick@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer your questions. I'd be happy to give it my best shot or forward your question to someone who I trust will give you guys correct biblical answers. But I just want to thank you for your time. You don't have to spend it with me, and so it's really an honor for you guys to join in tonight. Thank you, special thank you to the ladies who responded. Thank you to those who gave their input. Just such an awesome opportunity to be able to share with the world, and hopefully help somebody out. So I love you guys. This is Lady P with First Lady Vlogmas, and I'll see you next time. Bye.